If your birth year falls before 1955, I need you to pause everything you are doing at this moment and give me the next 10 minutes of your attention, because there is a genuine possibility that the Social Security deposit arriving in your bank account each month is less than what you rightfully deserve. Not by some trivial margin. I am referring to hundreds of dollars monthly, potentially thousands of dollars annually buried inside a government formula that was computed incorrectly, and absolutely no one at the Social Security Administration is going to reach out and inform you about it. That is simply not how this system operates. The system generates a figure. You accept that figure, and the funds you should have been receiving just silently vanish. Today, Timothy is going to walk you through precisely why this occurs, how to determine whether it happened in your case, and the exact steps you need to follow to correct it before one more month slips away. Watch through to the very end. The final step is the one virtually nobody completes, and it is the single step that actually transfers money from the SSA's records into your bank account. If you have not subscribed to US Updates Hub yet, do it right now and tap the notification bell. Social Security regulations, benefit formulas, and correction processes are updated every single year. When those updates happen, nobody from the government breaks down what it means for your personal situation. That is precisely the purpose of US Updates Hub. Hit subscribe and let us dive right in. Before Timothy gets into the specifics, let me share something that took place last year that has stayed on my mind ever since. A retired auto mechanic living in Tucson by the name of Harold had been receiving Social Security payments for 9 years. Each month, $1,412 landed in his account. He never once questioned it. He assumed the government had done its math correctly. Then his daughter, who has a background in accounting, sat with him one afternoon and accessed his Social Security earnings statement online. She spotted it within roughly 4 minutes. 3 years during the mid-1980s were displaying $0 in reported income. Despite the fact that Harold had been employed the entire time, he still had his W-2 forms tucked away in a shoebox inside his closet. They submitted a correction request. The SSA verified the mistake. His monthly benefit increased by more than $100, and he was issued a retroactive payment covering the months since he had initially filed his claim. Harold's experience is not unique. It is actually far more widespread than the majority of people understand. And the explanation for why it keeps occurring is identical every single time. Nobody informed him that he should verify his records. Here is the core principle behind everything Timothy is going to break down today. The Social Security Administration determines your monthly retirement benefit by using your top 35 years of earnings across your complete working history. They gather those 35 years, apply inflation adjustments, calculate the average, and process them through a formula to produce what is known as your primary insurance amount. That is the figure upon which your check is based. Now, here is where the issue begins. Every single dollar in that computation originates from earnings records that were submitted by your employers, frequently dating back to the 1970s, the 1960s, and in certain cases even further back. The SSA themselves have admitted to making roughly $2.5 billion in underpayments during 2022 alone. And based on findings published by Social Security Intelligence, close to half of all earnings record discrepancies within the system are never resolved because the individuals impacted never realize they should investigate. If just 1 year of your employment history is absent from that record, your benefit is permanently reduced. If 2 or 3 years are absent, the shortfall multiplies. One researcher crunched the figures and discovered that 5 missing years of earnings data can shrink a monthly Social Security payment by over $150 across a 20-year retirement period. That equals $36,000 lost. Not because you made any error, but because nobody suggested you examine the file. Now, let Timothy add the second dimension to this, because for individuals born between 1943 and 1954, there is a particular calculation problem that has silently cost millions of retirees a meaningful share of what they were entitled to. And it revolves around one date that most people never truly grasped. If you were born anywhere between 1943 and 1954, your full retirement age, as defined by the Social Security Administration, is 66, not 65, not 67. 66 precisely. That is the age at which you qualify for 100% of your earned benefit. Here is the issue. The Social Security Administration permitted people to begin claiming as early as age 62, and millions of individuals did precisely that, particularly during periods when employment was unstable or health was deteriorating. What a great number of those people were never explicitly informed is that filing before your full retirement age does not merely give you reduced checks for a handful of years until the amount adjusts upward. It permanently decreases your benefit for the remainder of your life. If you filed at 62 with a full retirement age of 66, your monthly benefit was cut by 25% permanently on a benefit that should have been $2,000 per month. That amounts to $500 every single month. You will never recover that for as long as you are alive. Last spring, a woman in Columbus named Dorothy shared in a retirement planning forum that she had been collecting Social Security for 7 years and had only recently discovered that her check was 25% lower than her full benefit because she had filed early. She stated, and Timothy is paraphrasing what she shared publicly, that when she applied at 62, nobody at the SSA office pulled her aside and explained, "Here is what this choice will cost you for the rest of your life." She was presented with a monthly figure and she completed the paperwork. She mentioned she wished somebody had laid it out the way a friend eventually did over 30 minutes and a cup of coffee. That account resonated with a tremendous number of people because it is not some rare exception. It is among the most frequent financial regrets within the retirement community, and it carries a distinct pattern for people in her birth year bracket. Now, Timothy wants to be straightforward about something. If you have already been collecting for years and you filed early, the goal here is not to make you feel regretful. What Timothy is here to demonstrate is that there may still be funds you have not reclaimed for reasons entirely unrelated to when you submitted your application. Because here is what the vast majority of people are unaware of. Even if you filed at the correct time at 66 at your full retirement age, the payment you are currently receiving may still be inaccurate because the earnings record feeding that formula may have never been rectified, and that is the correctable portion. That is the portion the SSA will genuinely act on if you present them with the evidence. So here's what Timothy wants you to do, and this is the segment of the video you should be taking notes on. The initial step is to visit ssa.gov and either create or sign into your My Social Security account. It requires approximately 10 minutes if you have never done it previously. Once you are logged in, you are searching for your earnings history, which is a year-by-year log of every dollar that was ever reported to Social Security under your name and your Social Security number. Review that record thoroughly. You are specifically searching for any year where the amount appears incorrect. A year that displays $0 when you are certain you were employed. A year where the income appears considerably lower than what you were actually earning. A gap anywhere in the chronology of your working life. If you discover one, you have identified money that was excluded from your benefit computation without your awareness. The second step is to assemble your documentation. Dig out your old tax returns, your W-2 forms, your pay stubs, anything that demonstrates what you genuinely earned in the years that appear wrong on your record. You do not need to possess everything stretching back 40 years. Begin with whatever you have. Even 2 or 3 years of documentation can be sufficient to initiate a correction. The third step is to submit Form SSA 7008. That is the official request for correction of earnings record, and it is accessible directly on the SSA website. You complete it, attach your supporting documents, and send it in. You can also accomplish this by calling the SSA at 1-800-772-1213 and requesting them to open an earnings record review, or you can walk into your local Social Security office in person and bring your documentation with you. Once you file the request, the SSA has a procedure to compare your documentation against their records and credit any earnings that were absent. The correction timeline generally runs between 10 and 90 days. If there is money owed to you, they will compute the back pay and deliver it as a lump sum direct deposit. Now, here's something critical about timing that Timothy does not want you to overlook. While the SSA does possess some authority to correct obvious errors, irrespective of when they took place. There is a general rule that earnings are most straightforwardly corrected within 3 years, 3 months, and 15 days from the close of the tax year in which those wages were earned. That means the older the mistake, the more challenging it can be to resolve and the more supporting documents you are going to require. This is not a cause for alarm. It is a reason to act on this sooner rather than later. If Harold in Tucson had delayed another 5 years before finding that shoebox, those 1980s earnings might have been unrecoverable. Timothy also wants to address something that surfaces every single time this topic is discussed, which is the matter of delayed retirement credits. If you were born between 1943 and 1954, and you postponed claiming beyond your full retirement age of 66, the SSA was supposed to enhance your benefit with an 8% boost for every year you waited up to age 70. That represents a potential 32% increase above your full benefit if you held off all the way until 70. The crucial thing to confirm is that those delayed retirement credits were actually incorporated correctly into your record when you eventually filed. Mistakes in that particular calculation are less frequent, but they absolutely occur. And if your benefit was supposed to include 3 or 4 years of delayed credits and it does not, you are forfeiting real money that remains unclaimed. When you access your My Social Security account, you can view the benefit estimate with a full breakdown. If the arithmetic does not align with what you were informed or what you anticipated, that warrants a phone call. In May of this year, a report from a government oversight office verified that thousands of widows and widowers had been underpaid because of a calculation error involving a procedure called the Widow's Indexing Computation. The SSA itself recognized the problem. Those individuals did not make any mistakes. They filed properly. They waited the appropriate length of time, and the mathematics inside the SSA's own system was executed incorrectly during a manual processing stage. The Inspector General estimated that approximately 40% of surviving spouses reviewed during that time frame may have been impacted by comparable errors. 40%. That is not a minor rounding discrepancy. That is a structural problem that the government quietly concedes when confronted but does not go out of its way to broadcast. This is the message Timothy wants to remain with you after this video concludes. The Social Security Administration is not your opponent. The majority of the individuals who work there are genuinely trying to fulfill their duties. But the system is massive, it is intricate. It was constructed on decades of paper records and manual data entries, and the truthful reality is that it produces mistakes that cost actual people actual money. The responsibility of identifying those mistakes does not rest with the SSA. It rests with you, and the only method you identify them is by examining your records. If you were born before 1955, your full retirement age was 66. Your benefit was supposed to be computed on your 35 highest earning years, accurately documented and accurately indexed. Before you exit this video, navigate to ssa.gov, sign into your My Social Security account, and review your earnings history. Every bit of it. Every year stretching back to the very beginning. If you notice something that does not appear correct, it most likely is not. The form to rectify it is SSA-7008, and the number to dial is 1-800-772-1213. Forward this video to one person you care about who was born before 1955 and is receiving Social Security right now. One share requires 10 seconds. If their earnings record contains even one missing year, discovering it could restore over $1,000 annually into their account permanently. Funds the SSA has been miscalculating without mailing a single notice to alert them about it. That is exactly what US Updates Hub is here to do. This video was created solely for educational and informational purposes by US Updates Hub, hosted by Timothy. Nothing in this video should be interpreted as legal, financial, or professional advice. Individual situations vary significantly. Always consult a licensed financial planner, tax professional, or contact the Social Security Administration at 1-800-772-1213 or visit ssa.gov before making any decisions about your benefits. U.S. updates. Hub and Timothy bear no responsibility for actions taken based on this content. Viewer discretion is advised.